Hi, welcome to this latest video on our series on employability skills. Today's session is about communication and the types of communication. I would give you a brief presentation on the various aspects of communication, post which you need to take a note of the assignments and the self-help and work given in the relevant module and take care of them. So let's begin. We are following the screencast mode because as you know, we like screencasts and they give you a feel of classroom presentation. So let's start. Communications could be of several types. It could be written, it could be oral. Among the types of written communication are reports, memos, emails, forms, letters, and faxes. Reports are a compilation of an observation or an assessment or an evaluation or an outcome of an activity in an organization. Memos are basically a form of communication where there is a hierarchy involved and there is one individual with some power or status within the organization writing to another individual basis his position. So it could be a top-down memo where a superior officer writes to his junior members instructing them to do something, or it could be related to the human resource department, or it could be one division or department of an organization writing to another division or department demanding or informing them of something. So we discussed about reports, which is an assessment of or evaluation or a final outcome of an activity, and memo is a short mode of communication. Email is the standard mode of written communication these days, and here one needs to take note that email is something which we also use in our personal lives, and hence we need to be careful about how to distinguish between the emails that we write in our personal lives and the emails that we write in our professional lives in our workplace. In the personal life, email could be detailed. It could have certain abbreviations or certain lingo which is very particular to your audience or your friend or family or relative. But in the professional setup, you need to take care of the expected etiquettes. You need to take care of the professional mode of communication which is acceptable in the cultural context. For example, if you're writing an email to a different country, to an organization based out of a different country, you need to be aware of the business standards and the communication etiquettes being followed there, so that what you write is not perceived as offensive or not perceived as inappropriate. And secondly, you are also taking into account any cultural differences in terms of your understanding or appropriate use of language. Email is better sent very specific because there is an inundation of mails these days, and executives would avoid reading longer mails unless there is a detailed issue which is involved, a detailed evaluation which is being discussed, and it's of great importance to the receiver. So emails are better sent short and to the point. Forms are means of gathering information, and we all have used forms earlier in our day-to-day lives. Letters are seldom used these days, and they are more used as a part of uh, a regulatory requirement. So, in those regulatory instances where you have a requirement of uh, or requirement by the regulatory bodies that communication also is sent by letters, there you find letters being used. Or else in the workplace in general there is a movement towards conserving paper, and hence electronic form of communication in the written mode is more prevalent than the physical form, and letters are being used lesser and lesser. Faxes similarly are being used lesser, rather in their replacement, in the replacement of letters and faxes, you have more of short messages such as SMS and chat services such as WhatsApp, which has gained ground. The challenge with these again is that they are short, they have blurred the lines between personal and official communication. There is to the point discussion, there is not much of uh, salutations and closures. Uh, there is continuity. Sometimes in the communication, there is also group communication which can take place in terms of chat groups where everyone receives the communication at the same time and they participate in the chat group. So these are the modern forms of electronic communication which is also available. The forms of oral communications includes phone calls, they include discussions, they include presentations and interviews. Oral communication brings in the benefit of uh, physical presence when it happens across the table or in the same room. There is no physical presence when it happens on electronic modes such as phone calls or video chats. But video chats also transmit the visual image of the individuals, and hence oral communication do give you uh, the advantage of usage of non-verbal communication, gestures, which are very important in communication and can convey a lot more than, or can add to what words communicate in your conversation. Phone calls should be straight, direct, and are to be used with the proper etiquettes. Discussions are more in the form of group discussion in a round table or in a seminar room. Presentations, of course, also use aids such as uh, projectors, and hence there are visual tools which are aiding the communications in the form of oral communications. Interviews, of course, are a form of a question and answer and a dialogue and an exploration. The media used for communication would include slideshows, it would include photographs, drawings, videos, and audios, or a combination of any of them, depending on the setting, depending on the tools that are being used. Any of these types of media could be used and used for this for the purpose of communication. So you need to be in a position to choose what combination of written, oral and media that can be used. You could use any of them individually or with a combination which best suits your requirement. Effective communication requires that you prepare well, you know your audience, you know your subject matter, and use the best delivery method. This comes with a lot of practice, and also it needs some amount of exploration of the situation in terms of your abilities, your personal preferences, and that of the audience. The more expertise you have on the subject matter, the better, and using the appropriate device leads to more success. Verbal and non-verbal signals are involved in communication. Verbal signals will include speech patterns, accents, dialects, vocabulary, and acronyms. Non-verbal communications include gestures, body language, emotions, eye contact, and dress. These have a relevance in terms of whether your communication is successful or not. Hence, learning them and adapting to the best non-verbal signals is very important. So you need to be very careful about your non-verbal communication and your dressing, your eye contact, the emotions you display, your body language. Apart from the content of your speech, the non-verbal communication typically conveys about 70% of the matter, while the verbal communication probably would include the remaining 30%. So non-verbal communications usually is more important in the context of physical communication. Verbal communication becomes more important in the context of non-physical communication, such as an email or a SMS or a chat. Our world consists of you at the center, and around that circle or sphere is the circles of your family, your friends, your school, your work, and the larger world as you go outwards from yourself as the center. And uh, the forms of communication becomes more formal and less personal as you move out from you to your family, to your friends, to school, to work, and to the larger world. So it's appropriate to use different styles of communication in the different circles. For example, your style of communication within your family would be different than with your friends at school and your very close childhood buddies, or with your circle in your workplace in form of your customers. So we speak very less formally in our inner circles than outer circles less known to us. So what we saw is that communication has got several attributes in terms of uh, um, the types in terms of written communication, oral communication, and using usage of media. We discussed that non-verbal communication was very important, and 70% of the communication happened through non-verbal communication. Verbal communication uh, took up the remaining 30%. Become very important when the media used is not physical presence. Of course, while using videos or the other media, then non-verbal communication also becomes important. But in form of live presence, non-verbal communication is very important. Informal settings which include yourself, your family, and friends, you use less of uh, uh, formality, and when you go to the larger world, you are more formal in your communication and you need to be aware of the cultural nuances. Thank you for joining us and hope you enjoyed this presentation on communication. Thank you.